Angel says listen carefully, because what is coming into your life will not arrive gently, it will arrive like a sudden shift in the wind that changes the direction of everything you thought was settled, and this message is finding you now because your soul is already sensing the disturbance before your mind can name it. There is someone younger than you, not by accident and not by coincidence, whose presence is about to uproot routines, attachments, plans, and even the version of yourself you have been living as, and this is not destruction but divine movement. Angel says this younger soul carries a frequency you have not allowed yourself to embody yet, a frequency of courage without hesitation, of trust without overthinking, of movement without fear of loss, and when their path intersects with yours it will feel shocking, unsettling, and strangely familiar all at once. You may initially resist this person because they will challenge your sense of control, your timelines, and the way you define maturity, yet Angel says understand this clearly, wisdom is not always older and guidance is not always louder, sometimes it comes wrapped in youth, spontaneity, and an unfiltered connection to destiny. This person is not coming to admire the life you have built, they are coming to rearrange it, and your soul already agreed to this before you were born. Angel says you have been praying silently for change while telling yourself you were fine where you are, and heaven has answered in a way that bypasses your comfort but fulfills your deepest longing. When this younger energy enters your world, expect sudden conversations that linger in your thoughts, unexpected invitations that feel risky yet exciting, and choices that force you to decide whether safety matters more than alignment. Angel says this person will not ask permission to awaken you, their mere presence will do it, and that is why the connection will feel intense even if it begins quietly. You are being prepared now so you do not mistake disruption for danger, because what feels like upheaval is actually extraction from a life that had begun to shrink your spirit. Angel says you have outgrown a season that once protected you, and this younger soul is the sign that the shelter is no longer needed. There will be moments where you feel exposed, uncertain, and emotionally unguarded, yet those moments are where truth breathes again. Angel says do not measure this person by age, measure them by impact, because they will mirror back to you the parts of yourself you buried to appear stable, responsible, and acceptable. Their laughter will remind you of joy without justification, their questions will expose beliefs you never examined, and their movement will challenge the stillness you mistook for peace. Angel says this connection is divinely timed to loosen your grip on what no longer feeds you, including locations, commitments, and even relationships that have run their course without closure. You may feel called to leave something behind sooner than planned, and fear will whisper that you are being reckless, but Angel says you are being led. This person does not come to replace your past, they come to redirect your future, and the road they open will not look logical to others, which is why it is meant for you alone. Angel says there will be a moment where you realize staying feels heavier than moving, and that realization is the doorway. You are not losing your identity, you are expanding it, and this younger soul is simply the catalyst heaven chose because you would listen to them differently than you listen to yourself. Angel says allow the discomfort, allow the questions, allow the unfamiliar rhythm entering your days, because stagnation disguised itself as stability for too long. This shift is not punishment for waiting, it is reward for surviving. The place you are being taken to may be physical, emotional, or spiritual, but it will feel lighter, clearer, and more alive than where you are now. Angel says trust the timing, trust the messenger, and most importantly trust the stirring inside you that refuses to be quiet any longer. This is the beginning of movement you cannot undo, and you were never meant to. Angel says the shift does not happen all at once, it unfolds in subtle pressures that begin inside you long before the outer world moves, and this is why you may feel restless without knowing why, as if something is gently pulling at your awareness while your daily life tries to remain unchanged. This younger presence does not rush you, yet everything around you begins to accelerate, thoughts surface faster, emotions rise more honestly, and decisions that once felt distant suddenly demand attention. You may notice that things you used to tolerate now feel unbearably heavy, conversations feel repetitive, environments feel smaller, and Angel says this is not dissatisfaction but awakening. The connection with this person activates memories you forgot you had, dreams you delayed for practical reasons, and desires you labeled unrealistic, and their energy does not force you to act but makes it impossible to pretend. Angel says you will begin to question why you chose safety over excitement, routine over possibility, and silence over expression, and these questions will not feel accusatory, they will feel liberating. This younger soul reflects movement, not because they are reckless, but because they have not yet learned to fear change the way you were taught to. Being around them will remind you that growth does not ask for permission from the past, it only asks for honesty in the present. You may feel moments of guilt for wanting more when you already have enough, yet Angel says enough is not the same as aligned, and your spirit knows the difference. There will be signs that confirm this shift, repeated thoughts about leaving, sudden clarity about what drains you, and an unexpected calm when you imagine stepping into the unknown. Angel says pay attention to what energizes you now, because your soul is recalibrating its priorities. This younger presence may not even realize the impact they are having, yet their words land deeply, their choices challenge your assumptions, and their presence feels like permission. You are not meant to follow them blindly, you are meant to walk beside the version of yourself they awaken. Angel says resistance will appear as logic, reminding you of responsibilities, expectations, and timelines, but logic without truth becomes a cage. You are not abandoning your life, you are allowing it to evolve, and evolution often requires release before reward. There may be tension between who you were taught to be and who you are becoming, and Angel says this tension is sacred. It is the friction that creates momentum. You might notice that your intuition becomes louder, dreams become more vivid, and your patience for misalignment diminishes. This is not impulsiveness, it is clarity arriving after a long season of endurance. Angel says you have been strong for a long time, but strength without joy becomes survival, and you are being guided toward living again. The younger soul serves as a reminder that curiosity is not immaturity, that desire is not weakness, and that movement is not failure. Through them, you begin to see that staying still out of fear is more dangerous than stepping forward with faith. Angel says do not rush to explain this change to others, because not everyone needs to understand what your soul already knows. Some shifts are meant to be felt, not defended. You will know the timing by the way your body responds, lighter shoulders, deeper breaths, and a quiet certainty that replaces overthinking. Angel says this is how alignment feels, calm even in uncertainty. As the days unfold, you may sense a destination forming, not as a clear map but as a direction, and this direction feels right even without details. You are learning to trust movement again, and this trust will carry you further than any plan ever could. Angel says now the movement becomes undeniable, not loud or dramatic, but steady in a way that cannot be ignored, like a tide that keeps returning until you finally step into the water. By this stage, you are no longer confused about what is happening inside you, you are simply negotiating with fear, habit, and the parts of you that learn to survive by staying predictable. The younger presence continues to exist in your world, sometimes close, sometimes distant, yet their influence remains constant, because what they activated no longer depends on their physical nearness. Angel says you begin to notice how your inner dialogue has changed, how you speak to yourself with more honesty, how excuses fall away faster, and how pretending feels exhausting rather than protective. You are no longer asking whether change is necessary, you are asking how long you can delay it without betraying yourself. There is a subtle grief that arises here, grief for the version of you that stayed longer than they needed to, that carried weight silently, that chose peace over passion because it felt safer. Angel says honor that version, because they kept you alive until you were ready to live. As you sit with this awareness, you may feel moments of doubt, wondering if you are imagining the pull, if this is just a phase, yet Angel says true callings do not pass when ignored, they grow stronger. The younger soul mirrors courage not because they have no fear, but because they have not allowed fear to become their identity, and being near that energy reminds you that you once lived this way too. You begin to see opportunities where you once saw risks, openings where you once saw endings, and Angel says this is the expansion you asked for without knowing the form it would take. Conversations around you may start to feel misaligned, like you are speaking a language others no longer understand, and this can feel isolating, but Angel says solitude in growth is temporary, stagnation is not. You may feel an urge to simplify, to let go of cluttered commitments, emotional baggage, and outdated promises, and this urge is not rejection of others but acceptance of self. Angel says the path ahead requires space, and space can only be created through release. There may be moments where you feel guilt for choosing yourself, especially if others benefit from your consistency, but Angel says self-abandonment is not loyalty, and staying small does not serve love. The younger presence does not push you forward, they simply walk unafraid of the unknown, and that example dissolves the illusion that certainty is required before movement. You start to understand that clarity often comes after the step, not before it. Angel says this is where trust replaces control. You may find yourself drawn to new places, ideas, or communities that feel unfamiliar yet welcoming, and this resonance is a signpost, not a distraction. Your intuition sharpens, guiding you toward what feels alive rather than what looks impressive, and this discernment protects you more than caution ever did. Angel says you are learning to listen to your body again, to notice when something tightens your chest or lifts your spirit, and this awareness becomes your compass. The younger soul represents momentum, but the journey is yours alone, shaped by your choices and your willingness to honor truth over comfort. As you stand at this inner threshold, you realize that nothing external has forced you here, and that realization gives you power. Angel says you are not being taken against your will, you are being invited, and invitation requires consent. When you finally say yes internally, even before any outward change, peace settles in unexpectedly. Fear does not disappear, but it loses authority. You understand now that the life you are moving toward does not erase who you were, it integrates them, giving meaning to every delay, every detour, and every moment of endurance. Angel says this is the quiet strength of alignment, when resistance softens and movement feels natural again. You are no longer waiting for permission, you are responding to truth, and truth always knows the way forward. Angel says this phase arrives like a deep breath after a long climb, not because everything is resolved, but because you finally stop arguing with what your soul has been trying to show you. By now, the idea of movement no longer feels foreign, it feels necessary, almost inevitable, and the resistance that once drained you has softened into awareness. You are not rushing anymore, yet you are no longer stalled, and this balance creates a grounded momentum that feels different from impulsive change. Angel says you begin to prepare without panic, to organize without fear, and to detach without bitterness, and these shifts happen quietly, almost invisibly to those around you. The younger presence continues to influence you, sometimes through direct interaction, sometimes simply through memory or inspiration, but their role is no longer the focus. What matters now is the inner alignment you have cultivated, the trust you have rebuilt with yourself. You notice how your choices start reflecting who you are becoming rather than who you were expected to be, and this alignment brings an unfamiliar sense of integrity. Angel says this is where confidence grows, not loud or performative, but steady and self-assured. You may begin to set boundaries that once felt impossible, to say no without explanation, and to prioritize your energy without apology. These actions do not make you harder, they make you clearer. Angel says clarity is kindness to both yourself and others, because it ends confusion and resentment before they take root. As you step closer to the new direction forming in your life, you may feel moments of nostalgia, a longing for what is familiar even if it no longer fits, and Angel says this is natural. Leaving does not mean you did not love where you were, it means you have honored it fully. You begin to see your past with compassion rather than regret, understanding that every choice you made was based on the awareness you had at the time. Angel says this forgiveness of self is essential, because it frees you from carrying unnecessary weight into the next chapter. The path ahead still holds uncertainty, but it no longer feels threatening, it feels open, like a wide horizon instead of a narrow corridor. You may sense excitement returning in subtle ways, curiosity about what is possible, a renewed interest in learning, creating, and connecting. Angel says these are signs of vitality reawakening. The younger energy that once felt disruptive now feels integrated, no longer something external, but something alive within you. You realize that youth is not an age, it is a willingness to engage with life without armor, and you have reclaimed that willingness. As practical changes begin to take shape, whether related to location, work, or relationships, you approach them with intention rather than urgency. Angel says patience does not mean delay, it means trust in timing. You are no longer forcing outcomes, you are cooperating with flow, and this cooperation brings ease even when challenges arise. There may still be moments of doubt, especially when facing the unknown alone, yet Angel says solitude now feels different, it feels spacious rather than lonely. You trust your inner guidance more than external validation, and this trust stabilizes you. You may notice that the opinions of others hold less power over your decisions, not because you dismiss them, but because you are anchored in your own truth. Angel says this is maturity of the soul, the ability to listen without surrendering authority. As you move forward, synchronicities increase, doors open with less effort, and support appears in unexpected forms, confirming that you are not walking this path unsupported. Angel says the universe responds to clarity with cooperation. You are not escaping your life, you are refining it, shaping it to reflect who you truly are. The journey ahead continues to unfold step by step, and you no longer demand to see the entire path, because you trust the direction. Angel says this trust is your protection. You have learned that change does not always come to break you, sometimes it comes to free you, and freedom feels like this, calm, purposeful, and quietly powerful. Angel says this final stretch of the movement is not an ending but a settling into truth, where the noise of fear fades and the signal of alignment becomes constant, steady, and unmistakable. You are no longer wondering whether your life is changing, you are living inside the change, breathing differently, responding differently, and seeing yourself with new eyes. The younger soul who once felt like a catalyst now feels like a confirmation, not because they remain central, but because what they awakened has fully taken root within you. Angel says you have crossed an inner threshold where going back no longer feels possible, not because the past was wrong, but because you are no longer the same person who needed it. There is a quiet confidence in your movements now, a sense of belonging within yourself that does not depend on external approval or perfect conditions. You trust your decisions even when they feel bold, because they are grounded in clarity rather than escape. Angel says this is how destiny unfolds, not with constant certainty, but with consistent alignment. You may notice that your environment begins to reflect this inner shift, relationships feel more honest, opportunities feel more resonant, and challenges feel purposeful rather than punishing. Nothing is random anymore, everything feels connected, as if life is responding to the truth you finally chose to live by. Angel says you have stopped asking for signs and started recognizing them, because your intuition is now awake and reliable. The place you have been taken to, whether a new physical space or a new way of being, feels expansive, like room to breathe after years of constriction. You no longer shrink yourself to maintain peace, you create peace by being authentic. Angel says authenticity is your greatest protection, because it aligns you with what is meant for you and filters out what is not. There may still be moments of uncertainty, moments where the future feels open-ended, yet these moments no longer frighten you, they inspire you. You understand now that not knowing is not a weakness, it is an invitation to participate in creation. The younger energy that once disrupted your life now feels like a reminder etched into your spirit, urging you to stay curious, to stay open, and to stay brave. Angel says you carry this energy forward not as rebellion, but as wisdom earned through courage. You look back at where you started and feel gratitude rather than regret, because every step led you here. The version of you who once hesitated would hardly recognize the calm strength you embody now, and Angel says this is evidence of growth that cannot be reversed. As you continue on this path, you attract experiences that match your new frequency, connections that feel mutual rather than draining, and goals that feel meaningful rather than imposed. Angel says your life begins to feel like your own creation instead of a series of obligations. You are no longer uprooted, you are planted in truth, and from this place you can move freely without losing yourself. The journey does not end here, it simply becomes more intentional, more alive, and more aligned with who you truly are. Angel says remember this feeling, this grounded openness, because it is your compass moving forward. Whenever doubt arises, return to the knowing that guided you through this transformation. You were never meant to stay where you outgrew yourself, and you were never meant to walk this path without support. Angel says you are exactly where you need to be, becoming exactly who you were always meant to be, and the road ahead will continue to unfold in ways that honor your courage, your honesty, and your willingness to trust the unseen. Angel says this stage of the journey feels quieter on the surface but deeper within, because you are no longer reacting to change, you are inhabiting it. The urgency that once pushed you forward has softened into certainty, and certainty does not rush. You wake up feeling different, not excited in a restless way, but grounded in a way that tells you something fundamental has shifted for good. The life you are living now responds to you differently, as if it recognizes that you are no longer negotiating with your truth. You move with intention even in small choices, and those small choices compound into a sense of inner authority you have never felt before. Angel says this is what happens when alignment replaces effort. You no longer feel the need to prove that your decisions make sense to anyone else, because they make sense to you, and that is enough. The younger energy that once disrupted your inner balance now feels like a distant echo, not gone, but integrated, like a reminder that lives quietly in your awareness. You understand now that the real uprooting was not external, it was internal, a dismantling of outdated beliefs that told you stability meant staying the same. As you continue forward, you notice how your nervous system calms, how your body feels safer in motion than it ever did in stagnation. Angel says safety is not about predictability, it is about self-trust. You trust yourself now to adapt, to choose again if needed, to walk away if something no longer aligns, and this trust becomes your anchor. People may notice a difference in you but struggle to name it, sensing depth without drama, confidence without arrogance, clarity without explanation. You are no longer performing growth, you are embodying it. The path ahead continues to unfold, but it does so without resistance, as if doors open at the exact moment you arrive rather than forcing you to push them open. Angel says this is cooperation with destiny, not surrender, not control, but participation. You feel more present in your body, more aware of your emotions without being ruled by them, and more capable of holding uncertainty without collapsing into fear. The desire to return to who you were fades completely, replaced by compassion for that version of you who survived long enough to make this transformation possible. You no longer romanticize the past or fear the future, because the present feels rich and alive. Angel says this richness is the reward for choosing truth when comfort was easier. You begin to notice that your intuition speaks in calm clarity rather than urgency now, guiding you gently instead of pushing you forcefully. This is how you know you are no longer avoiding yourself. Even when challenges arise, and they will, you meet them with curiosity rather than panic, seeing them as adjustments rather than threats. The younger soul who once symbolized movement now represents a lesson fully absorbed, that growth does not require permission and change does not require apology. You carry that lesson forward with grace, not rebellion. Your relationships evolve, becoming more honest, more spacious, and more mutual, because you no longer overextend to maintain connection. Angel says when you stop abandoning yourself, the right connections stop asking you to. You may find yourself drawn to new environments that reflect who you are now, places that feel expansive rather than limiting, and you trust this attraction without overanalyzing it. Life feels less like a test and more like a dialogue, responding to your authenticity with opportunities that feel aligned rather than exhausting. Angel says you are no longer being uprooted, you are rooted in motion, capable of moving without losing yourself. The fear of instability dissolves as you realize stability comes from within, not from staying still. You understand now that being taken somewhere new was never about geography alone, it was about consciousness, about stepping into a version of yourself that could not exist where you were before. This awareness settles into you gently, like a truth that no longer needs to be repeated. You move forward knowing that the journey continues, not as chaos, not as disruption, but as a living expression of who you have become, and that knowing brings a quiet, unshakable peace.